Sorry for yelling, AJ. I don't know why I keep doing it.
It's okay. You're a dad now.
I'm a double dad.
You're a dad squared.
Yeah. It's hip to be a squared.
And welcome back. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience. Together we are on a mission of Dynasty domination. One daydream at a time. I'm here with our gurus, Christian, Darthur, Daniel. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. On a scale from 1 to awesome, man, we're kicking ass.
Kicking ass and taking brains.
Yeah,
Where does
man.
kicking ass
Brainchild.
fall on that scale?
It's an 11.
Okay, gotcha.
Up to 11.
It's a
Nice.
50-point scale.
11.
It's no big deal. Nah, man, we're doing great. We're, starting up, getting the excitement going. We got the combine starting up.
Combine week, baby.
So, with that in mind,
Take it away, buddy.
we're kind of stalling, It's like there's so much information about to come at us. We got to pump the brakes a little bit. And I thought it would be a good time to reflect a little and think about the past and kind of re-educate ourselves a couple things we might have forgotten about. And the way I would like to do that this week is by looking at day 3 Dominators, man. We're looking at guys from the past 5 to 10 years. Yeah, Aaron Jones be one of them. And we're looking at guys that got drafted on day 3. And we just want to talk about really success stories, right? There's so many guys who didn't have success, and there's very few that did have success. So kind of tune our minds to kind of pick these guys out in the coming weeks as we go through the combine and the NFL draft. There's going to be Easter eggs to be had. So a little history lesson might give us a refresher on how to find some of these sleepers, man. So with all that in mind, thank you. I used Stathead pretty hard this week. They got a lot of information about past drafts and whatnot. So I'm using their weighted approximate value to kind of measure who made the cut or not. And using that, we're going with guys of a 6 or higher, which is kind of an arbitrary number, but it means they had valid careers. And as we start going through these guys, you'll understand. These are all household names. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to go through running backs to start off with, and we're just going to go round by round. And I feel like I should open the door for you to take the lead, man. If you want to start with the 4th round running backs.
Yeah, I can do that. Starting with 4th rounders that have made an impact as of late in the last 5 years-ish. Big one from last year, we got Tony Pollard is on that list. Then we got Nyheim Hines. He's had a pretty good, fun career. Always decently fantasy relevant. Chase Edmonds is on there. A couple years for him. Ramondre Stevenson's a big one, coming off a huge year. Michael Carter kind of lost a little traction, but he was important there for a while. Chuba Hubbard, we'll see what happens with him. Then we got Benny Snell, Joshua Kelly. Dameon Pierce is another huge name. And then DJ Dallas. So those are your names. Just first impressions as far as I'm concerned, there's like 2, possibly 3 that are like really, really strong names that people want to look out for. And the other ones are kind of just like guys that can contribute,
Yeah, I think I'm reading what you're putting down. You're talking about probably Tony P., Ramondre, and then potentially Dameon Pierce, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are the 3.
So, yeah, I'm with you, man. And, it's kind of tough to pick them out. I'll talk a little bit about Dameon Pierce later on in this episode. But Ramondre Stevenson was, landing spot confusion. You got Damian Harris in there, and it kind of no one really knew what was going on. That was like pre-Sony Michel getting traded. And then, obviously, Tony Pollard's got Zeke the Freak. So
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to pick on those guys as being superstars, but the true believers, like my friend Adre, big Ramondre fan, they really
told
paid
y'all.
off. Except he has 0 shares of them, so that's whatever. I'll get into the round fivers. We got Kenny Gainwell, and then most recently Tyler Allgeier, a hot name, and I think we'll talk about him a little bit later. And then we got Jordan Wilkins, which is a little fizzle, but these guys, I feel like Algier kind of got the landing spot bump, and kind of he had like some secret traits in his game that didn't pop as well. I don't know. We'll talk about him. And then you got Kenny Gainwell, which was, man, what do you just got to be from Memphis to get on this list? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Him and Tony Pollard are Memphis backs, but all right. How about round sixers, my friend?
Yeah, all right. So here we go. We got Boston Scott, Elijah Mitchell. You'll know that name if you watch this podcast at all.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert as well. Travis Homer and Ty Johnson. So and unfortunately, as big as an Elijah fan as I am, really only one of those names right now has like a path to consistent and predictable fantasy production, and that's Khalil Herbert.
Sweet. I'm into that. Yeah, the Elijah Mitchell thing, man. It's just like, the 49ers, there's so much pressure on that team that it's just, they're not in it for the superstars. They're in it for the W's. And I feel like a lot of fantasy gets like the value gets a little, anything could happen. They could put a little on one of your guys, and injuries kind of sucks. But I'll get into the 7th rounders, and I'm just going to go with kind of the hot names and roll it into you undrafted free agents as well. So 7th rounders, we've got Myles Gaskins, who had a bit of a run with the Finns, as we all know. Isaiah Pacheco, who is like, rookie, hot, Super Bowl champ with the Chiefs, angry runner. I think we'll be hearing about him in a bit too. And then as far as undrafted guys, we got obviously James Robinson is the big dude. I put Bam Knight in there. He got a little bit of pop after that Breece Hall injury with the Jets. So there's a little bit to love there. I don't know. It's like, it feels like you can be okay missing on these guys. I feel like Pacheco, maybe we should have read into the landing spot a little more. I think a lot of people.
Well, but even then, he was a 7th round pick, and the Chiefs brought in Rojo, and they had Jet McKinnon, and we didn't know that CEH was going to disappear after week 2. So like, even that one, I don't think a lot of people were on Pacheco. And to your point, you could miss on him in the draft and probably pick him up in the waiver.
Right. Unless you live in Kansas.
Yeah. Unless you get beat to it, I guess. But
Oh, you're just all those KC Mo people are just like, boo.
I mean, yeah. Unless you live in the Kansas City metropolitan area. Whatever. All right, I'm going to wide receivers. And fun fact, running back kind of seems like that's the golden ticket. Like, there's kind of a ton of successful guys in there. So we'll see how the other positions hold up. We always start with the most exciting and then end up with the least exciting. I don't know why we're doing that. Should we change it up? Let's just do tight ends. I'm doing tight ends.
do it.
All right. 4th round tight ends. Yikes. Dalton Schultz.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we've all heard that name about 50 to 60 times in the past year. If you're into fantasy, you got Will Disley, which that was a big believer, man, a couple of years back. We got Foster Moreau, soon to be a pretty awesome guy next year. Ian Thomas now. Harrison Bryant has had some pop games. Gosh, Chris Herndon, jeez. And Darren Smythe. So, yeah, tight ends, man. I'll just roll into the 5th round, too, just because it's so weak.
Yeah.
You got Tyler Conklin, not Jack Conklin, for listeners from last week. And, Jalen Samuels, which isn't, I don't know, is he a running back now? I don't even know, man.
I thought he was. Yeah. It's weird that he's on this list. I didn't know he was a tight end at any point.
Maybe
unless it's a different Jalen Samuels.
So that's it. 4th and 5th round. There's no 6th. There's no 7th round. All right. So that's how weak tight ends are. Let's get into wideouts. I'll let you tip it off, man.
Yeah. So, not a lot of pop in the tight end room. Not a huge, terrible amount of pop in the wide receiver room, but we do have Amon-Ra in the 4th round, which he exploded, came out of nowhere. Gabe Davis, who's good for a big game every now and again. Kiki QT had a sneaky little fun career. He was fun. I can roll into the 5th real quick if you want. We've got MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, newly fresh Super Bowl champion as well, in the 5th round. Darnell Mooney, who hopefully gets some help and hopefully kind of comes back to where he was before. Kind of disappeared this year. Same for Hunter Renfrow, but Hunter Renfrow's looked great and got himself a big deal out of it. Darius Slayton and KJ Osborne round out the 5th round.
Dang. Well, 6th round, there's a couple of household names here, so we'll just I don't know. All right, so I'm going with first name overall. These are listed in order of like value, most to least, pretty much. So that's why it gets interesting. But Russell Gage, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's kind of still up and coming.
Yeah, he looks good.
You got Quez Watkins, who is like a guy you almost forget about, but then he shows up in a big game, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns or whatever. Then you got Braxton Barrios, whatever. Scott Miller, aka Scotty Miller. Equanimous St. Brown, which is interesting that he's on the list. Good job. And then Cedric Wilson, who I guess maybe will return to his awesomeness eventually. Never. I'll follow that up with the lone round 7 guy, who is Richie James, who just kind of came on the scene pretty hot with the Giants just in time to become a free agent, like their whole wide receiver room. So no big deal. And then Juwan Johnson's got the undrafted free agent, but he's only a value of 4, so I'm just putting him on this list to show you that there is some
also
potential.
A tight end. Yeah. So he doesn't even. He's in a weird spot anyway.
Yeah, like Darren Waller's on the 10-year list, but he was drafted as a wide receiver.
Yeah, so that one's weird anyway.
Stuff just gets weird. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'll let you. So basically, you got Amon-Ra, you got MVS, Mooney, Renfrow kind of had a pop year. Gabe Davis, the jury's still out, and the rest of these guys aren't like really starting for your fantasy rosters. So
not unless you got injuries or bye weeks.
So it's kind of like if you're really taking your shots from what I'm looking at, like running back seems to be the place to take those shots. More
and get the premium talent at wide receiver.
Yeah. Why don't you give me a hint at what kind of value I can get at day 3 from a quarterback?
Well, there's only 3 names over the last 5 years, so not great. Not great. So I'll rattle those off super quick. We got 5th round Mike White, good for every now and then. We have Minshew Mania in the 6th, and then we got Brock Purdy in the 7th, the fresh Mr. Irrelevant, and that's it. Those are the only 3 names on this list.
That is rough, man. I tell you what, it's almost like the NFL teams kind of know what they're doing, We'll figure out if that's true or not, I think, in a little bit. So let's look at the 2022 class. This is most fresh in our mind. A lot of us probably had big victories or kind of, some letdowns. And so let's look at the guys that had that value below 6, which I don't think that really accounts for youth, like successful first years, because you're really comparing them against vets, and that's never really a fair comparison. Yeah. So there's a couple of guys. I'll let you jump in the 4th round. These guys are pretty exciting.
Yeah, we've got 4th round from 2022. We got Romeo Dobbs out of the Wolf Pack. Isaiah Likely, Chig Okonkwo, Daniel Bellinger, Cade Otton, and Jake Ferguson round off our list of tight ends in the 4th round.
Right.
All looking pretty good so far. And then we got Bailey Zappi in the 4th round for quarterbacks. So, and he came in, had a couple good games. Had one good game.
Future Ken Dorsey offensive coordinator, by the way.
There you go.
I still don't understand what happened with Mac Jones this year, but whatever. I'm moving on.
It's a weird situation. I'll just round it out real quick because in the 5th round we got Khalil Shakir, who should probably see a little bit more playing time this season, and then we got Kyron Williams, who kind of ran into the same issue, didn't really have any playing time either, and then Skylar Thompson appeared. He was a 7th round pick. He didn't really do a lot. Probably won't see a lot of him, but he did start a game. So.
Mm-hmm. So he doesn't count. Got it. So yeah, just after I tell you the tight ends are no man's land in the day 3, 2022 comes up and tells me I'm completely wrong, which is why we like to go through this stuff, man. Get a little bit of a look at where we've been and where we're going. So, I mean, with all that in mind, let's do a little we messed up stuff, right? A little swing and a miss. Let's look at day 3 guys that we were out on that impressed. And, did you learn anything? What might you have learned about it? And we're going to bring back an RDR oldie, the little-known third host, AJ,
that is I.
For his hot take on this one.
Well, it was a hot take back in the day, and I listened back to the episode when I mentioned Isaiah Pacheco. And if you listen back to that episode, you'll realize why I am the third host. It was atrocious. I'm not great at this. So as I say that, bear with me here. So he caught my eye when I saw his 40 time where he ran a 4.37 at the combine. Obviously, when you see that compared with a 5'10", 216 frame, as we know from Christian's RB builds that we talked about last week, that's kind of a place you want to be. That's almost exactly where you want to be. Paired with speed, I kind of thought, man, this guy could really surprise people. But then, that's the thing. That's why we're talking about this. I saw him go in the 7th round. I started having my doubts. All my notes were saying, hey, he can run between the tackles. He always falls forward. The effort's there. He's got breakaway speed. He's outrunning safeties and corners. But he got arm tackled really easily. And, I just didn't think that could translate to the NFL. And so I will be wary to do that because we should have saw the landing spot, although we didn't see CEH missing time. But a guy that runs a 3.9 yards per carry at Maryland...
Rutgers,
it's the same colors.
It's the same conference, too.
Yeah.
No, ACC.
You got to be able to rely on best trainers in the world. And when they see a guy, and you see the toughness in him. And I even said, the dude's got toughness but not strength. And after hearing myself say that, I feel like I really missed out on this one. Because I saw everything, but I didn't put the pieces together.
No, he was just chill in college, and now he's angry.
Yeah.
So you just didn't anticipate the anger issues. So that's your
anger issues are great for football.
That's right. Run angry, apparently. Man, what a beautiful thing. I'll let you tee one up, man.
Yeah. So I also stayed in the running back room, and it's ironic because it's a guy I'm fairly high on now. It was Tyler Allgeier. I was pretty out on him. I thought he would have a role in the NFL. He looked on tape. He looked like a power back. That was kind of where he should dominate. That's what I thought. Or maybe not dominate, but that's where he would kind of find his role in the NFL. And then the combine came out, and the numbers kind of like confirmed what I thought. He didn't run the craziest 40 time. It wasn't horrible by any means, but it wasn't great. He just kind of felt like he was going to fit into that role. But what I failed to calculate is there's a 31-year-old running back who's trying to do receptions and running at the same time, a chance of injury. And then who else was there? They just spent a 4th-round pick on this running back. He's going to get some time. And the amount of volume he got to expand. And if you watch the film, like like you were alluding to earlier, it looks like there's areas of his game that we didn't necessarily see in college. He looks a little quicker than I thought. He's got a little bit more burst than I thought. And so either it's, getting too scared of like, oh, okay, I've assigned him this role in my head, so that's the role he's going to be, or maybe not. Maybe I need to watch tape better and dig into it and see these smaller, minute details of the game because he looks great and he's like one of the guys I'm most excited for year two.
Man. Yeah, I always tell my wife I hate being right, because then you gotta like wait for everyone else to catch up and whatever, That's just life. That's how things go. But the push, man, that Allgeier push, the push, that was nuts. That was fun for me to have some success after my previous year where I didn't really do too hot in 2021 draft class. So it's all good. We good now. We good. We bouncing back. But I did kind of miss on a guy last year, and I think it's fun. We're all talking about running backs, right? It's like kind of wide receivers. Sorry, man. You guys are kind of a dime a dozen. It's like, what are you guys up to? There's too many of you for us to get truly excited about. So the guy I'm going to talk about is Dameon Pierce. And it's straight up. I lumped him in with some other guys. There's kind of like a blurry area of guys that kind of all seem pretty similar. Mainly Jerome Ford was the guy where I was like, I couldn't separate the two in my mind. And I kind of was out on both of them. I discounted them. And a big thing with Dameon Pierce was the lack of production. And he was a senior, right? So his junior year, he only had 106 carries. His senior year, he only had 100 carries. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, he's obviously being out competed for touches by Anthony Richardson. That's a name we should all be familiar with at this point. And so I'm like, well, he can't even outrush his quarterback. He's not going to translate to the next level. But then, now I'm kind of looking back at the stats, and I'm like, well, that's weird because that senior year he had 16 combined rushing receiving touchdowns on only 119 opportunities to have the ball in his hand. So like that means that he was very successful on that small sample size, and I just overlooked it. I looked at the Texans who didn't really historically put up very many rushing yards in 2021. So I'm like pretty much out on the team in general. And here they come, just leaning on him with the rest of the team being god awful. So he just had the opportunity to be extremely successful. And, he ran a 4.59 40, just enough things to make me scared enough to not want anything to do with him. Yeah, literally last in rushing yards in 2021. So I wasn't looking for them to, produce a high caliber rookie,
Yeah, for sure.
But they did.
So. It happens. Yeah, he was a guy when I first started watching film, I liked him, and then I got scared away by the combine and the lack of production. And so he was one that I think we all kind of whiffed on. I mean, the landing spot was good, but other than that, weren't really in on him, but live and you learn.
Yeah. Did you have another guy?
No.
Okay.
Not for this.
Happy joy. All right. I was trying to follow the ones and the twos. All right. And now we're on to the threes and we're on to the fours. So one thing I noticed, because we all have, noticed some late draft guys being successful in the NFL. So I wanted to widen the search and look at the past 10 years versus the past 5 years. And what I noticed is, man, the NFL must have stepped up their game over the past 5 years, because there were some guys slipping that were ballers, and we're going to get into them. But these past 5 years, they tightened it up. I don't know if they're more willing to take risk and be wrong and go for these smaller school guys or the smaller guys or maybe some whatever off the field question mark guys. but they really tightened up their game. Of the past 10 years, 14 day 3 guys ranked higher from 2013 to 2017 than anyone from 2018 to current. So
Wow.
there's a huge pocket of successful day 3 guys that happened not in the last 5 years, but in the previous 5 years to that. And I'm just going to run through them. You're going to know all these names. But I just want you to realize that the day 3 darlings may be overinflated by a lack of understanding that the draft has shifted. The successful players are no longer slipping like they used to. So here's just the list. It's a read through. And this is in order of their value. So Tyreek Hill's number 1, obviously. He was a 5th rounder. Dak Prescott, 4th rounder. You got Stephon, must love Diggs, 5th rounder. My man, number 33 for the Packers, Aaron Jones. That's a 5th round,
baby.
Devonta Freeman was a 4th rounder. George Kittle, 5th. Latavius Murray was a 6th. James White coming out at 4th. Kenny Stills, 5th. A pair of 4th rounders in Jamison Crowder and Jamal Williams. Go Pack, go. And then you got Chris Carson, the 7th rounder, who's, that's obviously a name. Like he's a
huge.
Colt guy for being a 7th rounder. That was a badass, right? Then you got Darren Waller, 6th rounder, as mentioned, famously cut and then position change. And now he's, top 5, I guess. And then you got Jordan Howard as a 5th rounder, and Tyler Higbee, 4th rounder. So those are all the guys that kind of just kicked ass, and and then you get into Naheem Hines, Tony Pollard, the guys we talked about, and not a lot of other guys coming in the top like 30 from that earlier 5-year streak, but they really hit hard with some gold there before kind of piddling out.
There's a lot of good names.
Whew. So, with that in mind, draft capital does mean a lot. But we just talked about being out on some guys that we shouldn't have been. How about we look at the flip side and let's talk about guys who had inflated draft capital and made us think more of them than we should have. Maybe we missed some warning signs. I'll let you pop in on that.
Yeah. I have 2. One of them's kind of an honorable mention because I think his situation this year didn't help, and so I'm not necessarily out on him. It's Alec Pierce. Like the 2nd round draft choice and the good combine sparked my interest for him, and I still think he looked good this season. But the Colts offense obviously was just horrendous. So I want to give him like another year just to see if they bring in a quarterback and see like what he can do given like a functional offense. But, he didn't have an amazing rookie year. So I just wanted to throw that one out there because I talked about him for months and months. My other one was somebody I wasn't really tricked into during the draft process and everything, and that was Brian Robinson. He went as a 3rd round pick, and I saw him as like the power guy. He was pretty slow, pretty, again, kind of like Allgeier, functional in a role. But then he got with the 3rd round pick, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Ron Rivera hated Antonio Gibson and loved Brian Robinson, and then he got shot, but Ron Rivera still wanted to bring him back as the starter, and I jumped on it. I was like, all right, obviously these guys are seeing something that I'm not seeing with this player. They want him to start over Gibson, and I traded for him. I traded assets. I traded Desmond Ridder. Sky's up, or everything's up in the air on Ridder, but traded him for him, and I'm very disappointed I already traded him away because all the problems I thought were there just kind of manifested. Like, he had a good year, to be fair, but it was just kind of exactly what I expected.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of 2nd round wide receiver poison to go around, man. And I drank some of it on my own. I got out patsed by the Pats with Tyquan Thornton. I mean, you know, the guy blasted up the combine, right? He's doing a 4.28 40, and it lit my brain up, you know. So they traded up 3 spots to get him ahead of George Pickens, ahead of the mentioned Alec Pierce, ahead of Sky Moore, and you know, he's the 9th wide receiver off the board. And man, I was tripping on that draft capital in the 40 time. I'm looking at a guy who's 6'2", 181, and that's a serious stretch. Like, the dude is too tall to be that skinny. And, you know, the Baylor film was all right, but damn, man, I got tripped up with that draft capital. They got me. So, you got to keep it clean, guys. So, with all that in mind, let's just remember the combine's coming up. Be realistic, but be open-minded. So, appreciate stopping by.
Yeah, peace out, guys.
10 on the moon.
Like and subscribe. Hey, man, we're blowing up.
That's right. We're double-digit subscribers now.
Let's go.